I remember the first time I met Sarah. She was this little girl with messy hair, wearing torn shoes, walking barefoot down a dusty road. She couldn't have been older than 8, carrying a sack over her shoulder, picking up scraps and things people had tossed away. Her face was smudged with dirt, but her eyes, they had this spark, like she was holding on to something big inside her. Sarah's family was the poorest in our village. She'd sometimes come to school when she could, but mostly she'd work to help her family survive. Her father was sick, her mother did odd jobs, and Sarah herself did anything she could find, from selling water in the market to cleaning houses. People whispered that she'd never make it out, that kids like her rarely did. But she didn't care what people thought. She had this fierce determination, a fire I'd never seen in anyone else. One day, when we were teenagers, I ran into her outside a library in town. I was shocked to see her, especially since she wasn't in school anymore. She was holding a stack of old, worn-out books. "What are you doing here?" I asked, half surprised, half curious. She just smiled and said, "I want to learn everything I can. If I don't, I'll be stuck forever." She spent every free moment reading those books, teaching herself, while the rest of us were just hanging out or watching TV. She didn't have money for tutors or classes, so she taught herself, slowly and tirelessly. A few years passed, and Sarah had saved up enough to move to the city. She worked 2, sometimes 3, jobs at a time just to make ends meet, sleeping in cramped spaces, sharing rooms with strangers. She barely had time to rest, but she had her goal in mind, to start her own business, to build something of her own. She wanted to make enough money to bring her family out of poverty, to give them a life they'd never dreamed of. At first, things didn't go well. She failed many times, losing her savings on bad investments and projects that didn't work out. People around her said she was crazy, that she should just get a normal job and settle down. But she wouldn't listen. She learned from every mistake, picking herself up each time. Eventually, she found her footing in the tech industry, developing a simple app that caught the attention of a big investor. She worked around the clock, learning every aspect of business she could, while growing her small project into something much bigger than anyone could have imagined. Years went by, and I lost touch with her, thinking she'd probably moved on to something else. Then, one day, her name came up in a newspaper headline: Sarah K. becomes youngest CEO in the country's history. I almost didn't believe it was her. But there she was, the same girl I'd known from the dusty village, now in a crisp suit, smiling in front of a towering glass building. Sarah had built a company from nothing, working her way up by herself, securing contracts, making deals. She'd created jobs, opened schools, and even funded scholarships for kids from villages like ours. Her company grew beyond anyone's expectations. She was everywhere, on TV, in magazines, meeting presidents and world leaders. She wasn't just rich, she was one of the wealthiest people in the country. Yet, whenever she spoke, she talked about her past, her family, her roots. She'd never forgotten where she came from. She could have bought mansions, expensive cars, luxury vacations, but instead, she poured her success back into her community. I saw her again, many years later, at a local event she was hosting to help fund schools and libraries in poor areas. As the event was ending, Sarah took the stage and gave a short speech. She thanked everyone, but then, her voice broke, and she paused, looking out at the crowd with tears in her eyes. For all the young girls out there, especially the ones who feel like they don't matter or that they can't make it, she said, "I promise you, you can. Don't let anyone tell you different." As she finished, the crowd rose to its feet, clapping and cheering. But Sarah's face wasn't proud, it was soft and emotional, as if she were holding back everything she had ever endured. And then, she looked at her parents, now seated in the front row, and as she stepped down from the stage and hugged her parents, it felt like she'd finally come home.